Depression is such a concern among people with Asperger syndrome that it merits a conversation now and again. We need to delve into this. In fact, a few months ago, I encountered a study that revealed that about 60% of people with Asperger syndrome are not only depressed, but they also have suicidal ideation. I mean, they are severely depressed. 60%, according to this one study. And of course, there are many studies, many different results, but, that one study, at least they came up with something or enough of something that tells us, this is really serious. We really need to delve into this. All right, so how is it that people with Asperger syndrome mask depression? They hide depression. The first thing I came up with is it's really not masking, but sometimes people with Asperger syndrome are just simply unaware that they have depression. They sad, they don't know what it is, they don't feel right, the world doesn't feel right, they just are unaware that they are depressed. In fact, they're unaware that depression even exists. Now that may seem a little strange, right? A little far-fetched? No. Because when I was in high school, 16 years old, I remember having these bouts of depression, but I didn't know depression was a thing. I didn't even know that it existed, but there it was. I had it, and it persisted, beyond my teen years, even into college, and here I am, pushing 70 years old, and I still have to contend with it. So, by the way, speaking of being 70 years old, I got to throw this in. What I'm talking about here is based on life experience. So, over the decades, I've learned a thing or two. I want to share with you some of the things that I've learned through life experience, through life's laboratory, but also through my personal study and things that I've encountered, like that study, that I mentioned a moment ago. So, sometimes, again, it's not technically masking, but sometimes people aren't forward, Aspies aren't forward or upfront with their depression because they don't know it's depression. They don't seek help because they just think the world stinks. I mean, that's just their perception of reality. Number two is we tend to put on a happy mask. Stop and think about this for just a moment. If you have Asperger syndrome, have you ever tried to hide it? Just by pretending that all is well and you're happy or as good as you can. Sometimes that's tough to do, but other times you're facing this choice. You can either endure rather social rejection, which is an Aspie. You deal with that enough. You don't want to add to it. So you can face the social rejection of having depression. It's sad to say, but yeah, if you are upfront with depression, a lot of people just immediately put a tag on you that says this is a flawed individual. So they would rather put on that happy mask. The person with Asperger syndrome would rather put on that happy mask, pretend to be happy is what I'm saying, rather than endure an elevated experience of a rejection by others. Number three is they have this, and this is kind of similar to what we just said, but they have fears of abandonment. One of the reasons I believe that Aspies have such a difficult time with the challenge of depression is because over the years, from those very formative years, that they were rejected, and that hurt emotionally. So I think maybe, and I'm not an expert in this, maybe somebody who is and watching can help us out here, that maybe depression in later life, like, teenage years on, is a form of post-traumatic stress. You are emanating the frustration. You are manifesting the damage. Okay, it's like a limp. You were hurt when you were little and you were injured and now you're limping. Same thing with depression. My opinion, if you know more about that, I would like to know, but we have these abandonment fears, and so we try to hide depression because, we spend our whole life being abandoned, so we don't want to add to that. Number four is seeking validation, seeking purpose, and seeking meaning, because throughout our lives, again, we have been rejected. So maybe if we can successfully hide our depression And sometimes we do this almost by coming across as narcissistic. We come across as elevating ourselves and trying to push ourselves ahead of others, not in line at the grocery store, but I'm saying just thinking of ourselves as a little bit superior and hoping others will pick up on that vibe, you know? Not all Aspies do this, but I think some of them do. And we do that because we're seeking validation of others. We're seeking purpose. We're seeking meaning. And really what we're doing is we're just hiding depression. By the way, it's kind of hard to solve something that is hidden. It's hard to resolve a problem that is denied. Number 5 is meltdown over nothing. So maybe you're out and about, minding your own business, and something triggers your depression, and simultaneously it triggers a meltdown. What is that meltdown? Well, that meltdown, because it's simultaneous with a bout of depression, is kind of a mask for depression. I'm not depressed. I'm mad. I'm having a hissy fit here. Leave me alone. So that's another way that sometimes we mask depression, according to my experience. Number 6 is we have this sometimes have this inability to concentrate. Now that's particularly challenging for those times in life when concentration is essential, particularly when you're in school. You know, children, little kids should not have to contend with, well, nobody should have to contend with depression, but little children in particular. High school, I've always had a problem with concentrating in classroom because my mind wanted to wander. Now, I could pay attention if I got busy, and my busyness was related to whatever was being taught, and hey, that worked very well. But unfortunately, most educational systems are not constructed that way. They have this one-size-fits-all, and it didn't fit me. Now, some Aspies do very well academically, but we get into the academic situation, we're finding it very difficult to concentrate because we're overwhelmed with depression. And who wants to reduce fractions or work on algebra or whatever you're doing, study geometry, when you're depressed? The world stinks. I don't care about history right at the moment because I've got my own history I need to worry about. Number 7 is what I call inflation immune response. Inflammation is what I meant to say, not inflation. So this is something that happens a lot of times. We have a problem with inflammation because depression affects our immune system. So our immune system is not working properly. Now, for what it's worth, I'm having that problem at this very moment. I don't know that it's due to depression, but a few months ago it occurred to me that, my body ached. And I was getting extremely weak. So, I talked to my wife, and we went to the emergency room, and they did all the checking, the blood samples and the urine samples and all this stuff they do, poking in on you. And they said that there is no pathogen, there is no bacteria. You don't have COVID, you don't have the flu, you don't have a bug of any kind, but you do have the symptoms. So what is happening is, according to the physician, is your immune system is responding as if you had a virus or some other pathogen, even though you don't. And her suggestion was you need to talk to a rheumatologist. You need to talk to a specialist. So we called a specialist, and we set up an appointment, and they told us they'd be happy to see us in about 3 months because they're so busy. That bothers me. I mean, when people are having that much of a problem with not just people with Asperger syndrome, but when people are having that much of a problem with their immune systems that they're backlogged for 3 months, that sounds like an epidemic to me. But inflammation. Number 6 is sleep patterns. Again, this is, if you don't mind, I'm going to use myself as an example because, a lot of this is based on my life experience, but I very seldom sleep more than an hour or two. I just can't sleep. Just, I go to sleep. Okay, finally I'm asleep. Then I wake up. I do that, and sometimes, I'll get 8 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period, but it's not a restful night's sleep. Could that possibly be due to inflammation? Maybe. Could it be due to depression? Almost certainly. from what I have heard, the studies that I've heard, Robert Sapolsky talks about this, is that I think it was, Robert Sapolsky and I can't think of the other guy's name, but they make a very strong point to the fact that when you have depression, one of the strong indicators is you can't sleep. Now, if you are masking your depression, you don't talk about it. You just pretend everything's okay. Yeah, I got a good night's sleep. I got in, at least I got in an hour or two. That's not a good night's sleep because you actually need your sleep. Now, some people the other way where they sleep too much, but either way, it's still an expression, and when we deny it, it is a mask of that expression. Number 9 is we just create excuses of all kinds. I said something a moment ago about blaming, crying because of deep depression, blaming that on allergies. Yeah, that's creating an excuse. In fact, I should have saved that till I got down here to number 9, but that's what we're talking about. So we cover up our depression by saying it's something other than depression. Or maybe we can excuse why we are depressed. Well, my dog died. When did your dog die? 9 years ago. We're just coming up with excuses so that we won't be labeled nuts, so that people won't think that we have a serious problem. Okay, number 10 is food abuse. I don't know about you, but I feel good when I'm eating. That masks depression. What do I eat? About everything. If it's there. The best diet I found is one in which you don't have any food around. That is the best diet for me. But yeah, I like to eat, and when I eat something that tastes good for that little moment, that one moment while you're eating the food, that relieves a little bit of relief of depression. So I'm masking my depression by eating. And I think a lot of people do that. But as soon as you stop eating, it comes right back, and we'll have another bite, eat another cookie, whatever. A lot of people go the other direction, and they try to mask or deal with, I should say, their depression by not eating. They intentionally don't eat because it gives them a sense, I guess, of being in control. So I am not being under the influence of my appetite. So I am in control. Can't control my depression, but I can control my appetite, so I feel like I am in control, and that is, in my opinion, that is masking. Okay, number 11 is what I call just pondering. By pondering, I mean you just think about life in general. People who are depressed do this, and Aspies who are depressed a lot tend to think about life in general. What is the meaning of life? It's one of the things people who have depression often concern themselves with. Why am I even here? Do I need to be here? 8 billion people on the planet. Seriously, do you need me? Am I any better than a bug? Am I contributing anything? And all these thoughts, this rumination type of thought just goes through our brain over and over and over again, and we become very philosophical sometimes as we are pondering these things. We sound like philosophers. The meaning of life, that's pondering. And what we're really doing is we're masking or kind of hiding the fact that, we got a problem with depression. Do you see those 2 rectangles on the screen? If you like what you've heard, you want to keep on talking, let's continue our conversation. Just click on one of those 2 rectangles and we'll keep on going. If not, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see y'all next time.